What's going on, y'all boys? Welcome back to a series I'm doing where we use Vegas lines to find fantasy values and decide which offenses are worth investing in. Today, we have the AFC North, one of the better divisions in football. Currently and historically, we got the Ravens, Cincy, the Steelers, and the Browns. First up, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Vegas win total set at 11.5. Implied team total set at 25.9. That is really good if you're looking at it from a fantasy football perspective. They are projected as a top 5 offense. Previously, they were 8-9. That was largely due to Lamar's injuries, but I do expect this team to bounce back, and I am looking to buy and invest into this offense. Jumping into my best values for the Baltimore Ravens, I have Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. Yes, for Mark Andrews, last year was very disappointing, but he just got paid. Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar are no longer on the team, so that should give him a much clearer path to targets, routes, and touchdowns. Also, he's got a great connection with Lamar Jackson, especially in the red zone, and at his current price at tight end 14, that's basically free. So I absolutely think it's worth taking an upside shot on Mark Andrews, and if it doesn't work out, you can always just cut him from your squad. And as for Zay Flowers, he's coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and there's still minimal competition for targets in this receiving room. Zay had a mini breakout last year, and if he continues on this upward trend, he can establish himself as a legitimate wide receiver one. And if that happens, we could be talking about drafting this guy in the second round of fantasy drafts next year. So if you believe in Zay, now's the time to take. Now, this one hurts a little bit, but for my most overpriced Raven, it's going to be Lamar Jackson. Now, let me be clear. I'm not completely avoiding Lamar Jackson. I still believe he deserves to come off the board as the quarterback too. And when you look at Vegas projecting Baltimore as a top 5 offense, that's clearly a green flag for Lamar Jackson. But my only concern is the opportunity cost. There are several quarterbacks available later in the draft who can provide strong production without forcing you to pass on an early running back or an early wide receiver. Lamar is not a bad pick at all. I just prefer how my teams look when I attack the quarterback position later on in drafts. Finally, as I alluded to earlier, my breakout candidate, Zay Flowers. Zay has improved every season he's been in the league, and I believe that trend continues. I think he eclipses the 1,200 yards he had last year while adding more touchdowns in an offense that Vegas expects to rank among the league's best. And an honorable mention I have is rookie receiver Jacoby Lane. I think he has a legitimate chance to secure Baltimore's wide receiver 2 slot and begin making an impact in year 1. Overall, I'm buying the Ravens offense. Mark Andrews offers late round upside. Zay is ready for a breakout. And Lamar remains elite, even if I prefer going late round QB. I'll have them winning 12 games here, at least scoring 28 points per game. And here's their schedule, just so you could take a look. And that's my verdict on the Baltimore Ravens. Next squad up we have is the Cincinnati Bengals. Vegas win total set at 10.5. Implied team total set at 26.1 points per game. This is the second team Vegas has in the AFC North, projected to be a top 5 offense this year. Previously, they go 6-11, obviously due to Joe Burrow's injuries, but I do expect Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals to bounce back and have a nuclear season and possibly have a rematch with the Los Angeles Rams in this year's upcoming Super Bowl. Rolling into my best value for the Cincinnati Bengals, I have T. Higgins. Higgins has dealt with his fair share of injuries, but when he's healthy, the talent is undeniable. He could easily be the clear wide receiver 1 on many teams in the NFL. He just so happens to play with one of the best wide receivers in football in Jamar Chase. Higgins also has double-digit touchdown upside. He just scored 11 touchdowns last season despite Joe Burrow missing half the year. If Burrow stays healthy for all 17 games, I could easily see Higgins finishing as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. Now for my most overpriced Bengal, I have Joe Burrow. This might sound strange despite how highly I'm projecting the Bengals offense to be this year, but it all comes down to draft strategy. There are several pocket passing quarterbacks later on who can give you similar production at a much cheaper cost. Now, if you're playing in a league that has 6-point passing touchdowns, it's a different conversation, but all in all, I prefer to wait at the position. I can absolutely see a reality where Joe Burrow crushes the season, but you're paying a premium price for a quarterback who's dealt with a lot of inconsistency regarding his availability and offers little to no rushing upside. He's not a bad pick. I just prefer the value later on in the draft. And finally, for my breakout candidate for the Cincinnati Bengals, I have Chase Brown. He had a rough start to last season, but from weeks 8 on, he was the RB4 in fantasy points per game. He's a true 3-down back with little to no competition for touches. He's going to catch a ton of passes, and he rarely faces stacked boxes because defenses have to respect Burrow and they have to respect the receivers. He's currently going in the early to middle parts of the second round as the RB10. I know that isn't necessarily cheap, but I still believe there's room for him to outperform this price, and I can easily see Brown finishing as a top 5 fantasy running back and becoming a first-round pick in next year's drafts. Overall, I'm buying this Bengals offense. Higgins offers wide receiver 1 upside at a discount. Brown has the perfect role for an elite fantasy season, and Burrow could lead one of the NFL's highest scoring offenses, even if I personally prefer waiting at the position. And for my verdicts, I have them winning 12 games. I have them averaging 28 points per game, and I'm obviously buying into the offense. Here's their schedule, just to have a visual. And these are my thoughts on the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Next squad up we have is the Cleveland Browns. Vegas win total set at 5.5. Implied team total set at 18.7 points per game. That is projected to be a bottom 5 offense in the NFL this year. Previously, they go 5-12. There are still concerns at the quarterback position. We have Deshaun Watson returning from injury. We have year 2 of Shedeur Sanders. I believe they should just start Shedeur Sanders. They should just take their L and move on from Deshaun Watson. New head coach Todd Monken. O-line looking shaky, ranked 32 coming into this season. So I don't expect much from this squad, but I do believe there are some fantasy values we can pick off from the Cleveland Browns. Starting with my best values on the Cleveland Browns, I have Harold Fannin Jr. and the 2 rookie wide receivers, Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. Starting with Harold Fannin, he just finished last season with 72 catches, 731 yards, and 6 touchdowns as a rookie, finishing as the tight end 6 despite sharing the field with David Njoku. Now he enters year 2 at the top of the depth chart after Njoku departs in free agency. I also like the values on the rookie wide receivers. Outside of Jerry Jeudy, this receiving corps is wide open, giving both rookies an opportunity to contribute immediately. But as I'm recording this, Concepcion is dealing with a shoulder injury suffered in practice, so that is definitely something to monitor. Now for my most overpriced Cleveland Brown, I have Quinshon Judkins. Yes, I still like Quinshon Judkins as a player, and I do believe he is a very talented running back. There are just a few concerns I have that make me a little hesitant at his current price. He's returning from a gruesome late-season injury in which he dislocated his ankle and fractured his fibula. Positive news on that is that he's reportedly healthy and participating fully in camp. I even recently saw a clip of where he seems to be doing very well physically. But even if we put the injury concerns aside, Judkins is still projected to play in a bottom 5 offense behind the lowest rated offensive line in the league, all while Dylan Sampson is stealing his receiving work. I'm not completely avoiding Judkins, but there are several major concerns attached to his 4th and 5th round price tag. Finally, for my breakout candidates, I have Harold Fannin Jr. and the rookie wide receivers. Fannin is already being drafted as the tight end 6, but still has plenty of room to finish amongst the elite tight ends this season. And with Njoku gone and no established wide receiver 1, Fannin could lead the entire team in targets. Same for the rookies. They both offer immediate upside because there is no established wide receiver 1 in this offense. Overall, this probably won't be a great real-life offense, but that doesn't mean we should ignore it and possibly miss some diamonds in the rough. And finally, here's their schedule, just to have an idea of who they will be playing this season. Final squad up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Vegas win total set at 8.5. Implied team total set at 21.4 points per game. Previously, they go 10-7. The question is, can Aaron Rodgers keep this team competitive throughout the whole season? They bring in reinforcements. They trade for Michael Pittman Jr. They bring in Rico Dowdle. They draft O-line in the first round. They trade up in the second round to get Jeremy Bernard. Can Aaron Rodgers make magic in his final season? Starting with my best value on the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have Michael Pittman Jr. Pittman is currently the wide receiver 42 off the board and now finds himself in a brand new situation, which he handpicked, by the way. He wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers, where I think he could thrive. His ability to work underneath and consistently move the chains meshes well with Aaron Rodgers' current skill set. Pittman finished last season with 80 receptions for 784 yards and 7 touchdowns, which landed him a wide receiver 18 finish. I think he could build on those numbers in Pittsburgh, so at this current price, he is a steal. Now, for my most overpriced Steeler, I have DK Metcalf. DK just had his worst year statistically, and since then, Pittsburgh has traded for Michael Pittman Jr., moved up in the second round to take Jeremy Bernard, and also pretty much drafted, or they thought they did, Mekhi Lemon. DK is more of a vertical threat, and I'm not convinced a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers still has the consistent deep ball juice needed to maximize that part of his game. Metcalf can still deliver some big games and score touchdowns, but with more competition for targets, I prefer Pittman at his cheaper price. Finally, my breakout candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers is rookie wide receiver Jeremy Bernard. The Steelers traded up to get him in the second round, making him their highest drafted wide receiver since Antonio Holmes in 2006. And if there's one thing we know about the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's that they know how to draft a wide receiver. Bernard's play style is very versatile. He can line up on the outside, in the slot, and even take snaps out of the backfield. With DK and Pittman ahead of him, he may not find immediate success, but as the season progresses, I think his role will continue to grow and he will become a very valuable fantasy piece down the stretch. Overall, I'm neutral on this Steelers offense. Pittman offers value at his current price, while Bernard gives us a late to mid-season upside bet, and I'm cautious about DK considering the talent they brought in, limiting his target share and ceiling. Here go my verdicts, and here is their regular season schedule. So that's all I have for y'all today, boys. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.